How do you feel, Jimmy?
No, gotta do the
We
intro.
do the intro.
Ah, damn it,
for real.
you're right.
Hello, you're listening to Pods, the Multiverse Season 4. We played 5th edition D&D in the world of Eberron for 12 episodes. I was the DM, Jimmy, and here are 4 of my best friends.
I'm Andy. I played the Green Warden, named the Green Warden, or Caligwesthanar, and, you know, he's just happy to be out of the ancient ruins that he spent millennia being buried under.
My name is Jeppy. I played Alfonso Carlucci Rocatella, who is really happy to have his definitely not as smart as him little brother back in the form of a radio.
I'm Scala. I played Istvan of Clan Gunvald. No quippy one-liners. That was a real heartbreaker for me. And it'll be interesting coming. I'm looking forward to coming back to this character because I'll have more to say about that as we go forward.
And I'm Alexa, and I play Hematite, a cat that these friends found in his home and who followed these friends on to adventure.
And then back to his home.
Back to his home.
Back to his home.
Hematite, an indoor-outdoor cat.
That's right.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, friends, for coming on this journey with me. This was great. This has been really fun.
This was a fucking fun season. No
Yeah.
It's
question
absolutely
about it.
great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for
yeah.
taking us on this journey.
Yeah, this was a good one. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really the fun, I think. You know, because there's a lot of different ways to play this game. There's a lot of stuff you can get out of it. But yeah, I wanted splashy. I wanted big, capital A adventure, Indiana Jones type shit. Like, let's make it fun.
Last time we were here, wrapping up Icewind Dale, setting up Eberron, I think I said fun. And yeah, and at that point we had recorded maybe 6, maybe 7 sessions at the time that we recorded that wrap up, and
That sounds right.
it's only gotten that was before fucking Hematite. So
Yeah, it was.
yeah, fun, definitely.
It's back when we thought Hematite was going to be a 1-episode guest character.
Yeah,
We
right.
really did. When
Hematite
I said
joined the campaign half the
What?
season.
we were talking about it, and you were like, it'll be like 1 episode, maybe 2, probably 2, but that's it. That it's just 2. How do you feel about 3? Or 3
Yeah.
okay?
No more than 4 though, definitely, and it couldn't possibly be any more than the 5 that are left.
It was great though.
Oh yeah, no regrets. So good.
None at all.
But yeah, this was the setting for fun. I guess, I mean, we'll talk about your choices for Eberron, but as someone that is less familiar with Eberron as a setting, like, is Eberron generally, like, fun everywhere, or did you inject fun into Zendrick, or, like, is it, I don't know, like, is that generally a vibe associated with Eberron as someone who knows nothing?
Kind of, yeah. So Eberron is, it's a campaign setting that's been around since around 2004, I think. And to my understanding, the creator of this world, Keith Baker, originally wrote this setting for another TTRPG called Savage Worlds, which is a more fast-paced, splashy adventure game. But then there was this, you know, Wizards did this contest, send us your settings and stuff like that. And so he ended up winning that contest, and then they developed it into a D&D setting. So a lot of stuff got added at that stage in the process. So Eberron is almost like a one-for-one replacement for, like, Forgotten Realms, Faerun. Like, it's got a place for everything. You could flip to any page in the monster manual, and you can find that monster somewhere in Eberron. Just because that's the way the world was devised. But yeah, it's supposed to be for these more like, you can do technological games, you can do this like Indiana Jones type stuff, you can do Wild West. There's a lot of settings that are specifically meant for those kind of broad movie-like tropes.
Yeah. And I don't want to take credit away, Jeppy, as you sort of ask this question, from Jimmy's just personal DMing style, which I feel like is just as much a part of this as the setting itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is the only time I've ever had Jimmy DM, but yeah, definitely. And I've heard in our table talk content, you all have talked about some of the other shit your characters got into, specifically Andy's characters, and I am so jealous I wasn't at those tables because that sounded like a blast.
You decided to move to Florida.
that was an urban intrigue / cosmic horror game.
Yeah. It was so good. God, it was so good.
There was also there was a Union subplot in there too with the Warforged. It was it was like a lot of cool stuff going on in there.
That was me finding my voice as a DM. And some of it I wish we recorded, and some of it I'm very glad we did not record. Some of it was kind of rambly, but it was just I was just throwing dozens of plot hooks at you, like, here's a bunch of characters here, and here's a bunch of stuff going on, and here's what's going on in this country, and this country, and this world, and this house, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I brought a little bit of that energy to this campaign with just even though you spent a lot of time in the jungle, there's still this feeling that, like, there's bureaucracy that is going to get in your way of doing some things, and that's just this kind of analog with the real world where you can do that, but there's going to be paperwork. But, that kind of plays against in contrast with, like, oh, we're fighting a literal T-Rex and now it's on fire.
Yeah.
But I like how just from the word go, Alfonso and my sort of first prologue scenes kind of put a spotlight on the wider world that existed outside of Zendrick and outside of the adventure we were going on. So we always knew that, like, that world was out there and it could have an influence on our actions. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The backdrop of this is the whole world is at war, right? Corvair, mostly, is just erupted in war. Everyone is involved in this. It's like a World War II type of situation. But then, actually, at certain times, it's not. We're a little bit in the past from where, like, the actual Eberron canon takes place. Like, if you open the book, it takes place about 30 years after this. So I wanted to do something, like, more at the height of the war. The war drags on for about a century, and it turns into almost kind of like what we have in the real world today, where we're not, like, at total, like, an actual war, but we're not at peace either. It's this just kind of background churning of economic war machines that just are going to keep going. And I think we feel that a little bit, even though it's happening a continent away. That's why I wanted to put the radio in the campaign, kind of give you a connection back to what's going on at home. So it's not just like trees and dirt and shit. Like, this is, there's a world here.
Yeah.
At the radio, by the way, there's a lot of people have done this. I did take inspiration from some, like, Reddit posts and just kind of searching around on the internet. People have put radios in Eberron, but it's not a natural part of the setting.
Interesting. And it feels so at home in it.
Yeah, it definitely does belong in this
Which
world.
is probably part of the wonder and fun of DMing in Eberron. It's like,
that's right. I love Eberron.
Yeah.
And
Eberron is so you, like, as a person. Yeah.
And so there was this interesting thing that I realized after DMing Eberron for a little while, which is that magical items are more common in this world, which I love. I love magical items. I love devices and stuff. But those things still have a gold value to them. Things that you can just find on the shelf, like a bag of holding. And so as a result, the entire economy of the world is it's more industrialized, it's more inflated than a lot of other worlds. Gold doesn't go as far in this world as it does in other worlds.
Yeah, we spent 36,000 at the end. We know.
36,000 you dropped on Rizian's desk and walked out. Yeah, that's life-changing money. But in this campaign, it's life-changing money too. But yeah, you can get 100 gold, spend 100 gold. Money in, money out. Just it's that type of balance sheet approach to money rather than gold pieces.
As long as it's not over 10,000.
That's right. That's a whole
other
category of charges. So
nice.
Let's talk about characters a little bit.
Well, as a transition to get into characters real quick, when we gave you the characters, did it inform any of, like, what you wanted to do with the campaign?
100%. Yes, that's what the campaign is about. You guys.
I was going to say. I mean, this campaign is so wrapped up in us. It's amazing.
There's no story otherwise.
Yeah.
I knew I picked a setting. You're going to be in the jungle, in Zendrick, in the world of Eberron. Tell me who's there. Who are you, and why would you be on this expedition?
Yeah.
And then Andy gave me this crazy idea of a character, and we ran with it.
We gave you a fucking gold pile, and not like, and I'm like, and you turned it into a diamond. I don't know what the right way to take that.
Good alchemy.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, yeah.
So yeah. To what Scala said about filling out the background of the world with your character backstories, a lesson I learned DMing however many sessions we did at that home game. Lore can sprawl really easily and really quickly. And I think, at least me, as a listener of I've listened to some D&D podcasts. I'm not an avid listener like I know Andy is. And I think Andy might be the only one of us who really listens to a lot of D&D podcasts. I tune out when it gets too dense, or like, you listen to one episode and then you wait a few weeks to listen to the next one. You forget everything that happened. And I didn't want to run a campaign like that. I wanted to keep the lore, I wanted to keep the scope very focused. And so I took your character backstories and the worlds that you come from and what game pieces you're bringing to the game. And I didn't want to add too many more to that. And just I wanted to play with those pieces in the world that we're creating here, and bring in a couple others as necessary or as it serves the Eberron canon, which some listeners might be familiar with. But I didn't want it to sprawl.
I mean, I appreciated that because I think the character quests and journeys are really front and center for a lot of the campaign, and I love that. Certainly.
And there's just a couple of layups in there that, almost immediately I realized this idea that, Luciano and Warden have similar technology going on with them, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly didn't think dragons were going to play as big a part in the campaign as they did. That was something I think Andy kind of leaned into incidentally, and then I realized, okay, yeah, let's go with that. That's fun. Dragons are great.
Can't help.
Dragons are great.
Yeah.
Okay. So characters. Andy, do you want to go first, talking about all things Warden?
I think Warden changed a lot over the course of this adventure. Just the fact that he's not alone anymore means so much. And not even just his adventuring party, which he holds very dearly, but also this notion of the elves made it out of the calamity, and they're out there, and he feels this connection to them, which was a huge step, in that sort of turning point in the middle of the campaign. And Jimmy steered us. I felt this a lot in the second half. A lot stronger of a hand towards, there is no, how do I want to put this? You took out a lot of the sort of made-up MacGuffins that would have been in other campaigns and just said, maybe it's prophecy, maybe it's not prophecy, but whatever happens, happens. It felt a lot easier to breathe when trying to figure out where do we go as a party, what is this adventure about, because bringing it back around, it wound up being about these characters' goals, and so Warden, it just really just turned into helping his friends.
Yeah I like that, and I realized that at a certain point that the conversations that you have with each other are very important in your decision making. And so if you are expressing an intent to do something, I am weighing that against what I had maybe planned on doing, and it's the players had a great idea there. Let's go in that direction instead.
Yeah.
And a lot of especially the second half of this campaign was, let's see where they go with this. Let's see how they approach this game. And I approached the second half less as a story and more as a game, which I felt really comfortable in that mindset. Alfonso.
Hey.
Talk to me about where Alfonso started and where he is now. Like, where's he on his way to?
Yeah, so well, quick, just to kind of start where Andy started. It's funny, I don't really know if Alfonso did change too much this season, looking at it in totality. Just from my point of view, I think Alfonso is the same person that we met in episode 1. But to answer your question of where are we going next, I don't want to say too much because it kind of peels back the curtain on my theories for what may happen in the next season. I don't really want to do that here.
And as we just established, your theories are maybe what actually might happen. Not that straightforwardly, but if you try to make it happen, it might happen.
Yeah, and I think there could be some significant change and some real soul searching that Alfonso is going to have to do coming into the next season of Eberron. So I don't know really if Alfonso changed much of it at all, but to be honest, I didn't really want him to. I came at this season wanting to make a character that makes me happy and puts me in a good mood for very fucking obvious reasons. And I didn't really want to budge from that. And I think that's also part of Alfonso's charm, is the relentless optimism. There are even a couple of moments in the season where there was just a moment of just like sobering moments, and Alfonso kind of snaps out of it and just goes, "Oh, then we are in agreement. Very good," and moves on.
Right.
And that's a huge part of who Alfonso is. And I was just really happy to keep playing him that way. And at no point, we went through some shit that should theoretically change people. But even in those moments, I felt like this isn't enough to change. This isn't quite enough to change Alfonso from who he currently is.
Because all of that shit that happened to Alfonso wasn't as bad as losing his brother.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, don't want to say too much, but I feel like next season that's going to be different.
So, without saying too much, I've had this theory the last maybe 2 or 3 games. I know it is sort of a gag on just Jeppy's player, Jeppy, intelligence-based character. I've got to bring it up. But I honestly am starting to think that, maybe it's just finding reasoning, trying to, make it work. But, Alfonso is really smart and is probably ignoring a lot of the things that he knows just out of trauma and wanting to stay in this world that he exists in.
So I think that's a really great way to keep it spoiler free. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I think there may be possibilities out there, none of which Alfonso is ready to reckon with. So there's this through line of optimism and through line of, well, we'll find a way. The reality is that if there is a way, it's probably not pleasant, and it probably isn't going to give Alfonso the outcome. But theory, and that's all I want to say about the theory, and that would probably be enough to cause a major change for Alfonso, without question.
Oh my god, that's such a devastating theory.
Listen, I may play a hopeful character, but I always think bleak in terms of story.
That's right. It is Jeppy behind Alfonso.
Yeah.
There's some dark shit.
There is.
We're all a little bit broken. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
And here's the other thing, is looking back on your other characters that you've played, it Alfonso doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? And so
he's a bit different.
I'll be fine. It's fine. I'll be fine.
A lot of sense.
I listened back to Ravnica recently, and just thinking for a moment, trying to take Illapel at face value.
Ugh.
Illapel is a Jeppy as Illapel is a pretty good liar. If it wasn't for this really slimy voice and the knowledge that we have that Illapel is kind of a schemer, I think that Illapel is a very sympathetic character, especially when they get into their backstory.
Yeah. It's also interesting that it's actually more of an evolution of not character, but expressing certain things in your characters, clicks and then Illapel, who's got like really high charisma, kind of like forward facing, and then Alfonso's the same way, but he's a nicer guy, so it's even more believable.
I think the through line is that Jeppy, as a player of Dungeons and Dragons, really likes to live for chaos. Really likes.
Hey,
to,
I'm for it. It's my favorite.
Take opportunities to make wild things, and that's, I've said many times, that's why I really like playing with you.
So good.
But I think Alfonso is that channeled in a much more I would say like acceptable way.
Enjoyable, if almost enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like because we know Alfonso means well and is not self-interested, we're willing to tolerate a lot more chaos.
Absolutely. I felt like there was one more thing I wanted to say about Alfonso before we moved on to Istvan, but it is escaping me. No, I think that's it for Alfonso.
Wait, I have a question. Maybe you've talked about this in a different table talk, but how long have you been speaking Italian?
I don't speak Italian.
Well, listen.
I say
got
signori,
just enough words.
which is a plural.
No. Listen. I took. I think I took 3 years of Italian in college, and you have more than a passing. You've got some like interesting. You have good speaking Italian. You know what I mean?
We talk about my Italianness enough that it's worth a cursory mention. So yeah, my dad's an immigrant. We used to visit my family every year, so I learned to speak a decent amount when I was a kid. And then we stopped going and visiting family in my like mid-teens, and I lost a lot of it, almost all of it. So that's
absolutely.
it. I thought you were going to ask me, is Alfonso stolen from Fullmetal Alchemist? The answer is actually he is not.
Really?
No, I think I mentioned this in our table talk. Alfonso is inspired by a character from an unfinished novel I started about a girl named Parse with the same quest. Her uncle is in her arm, and he's been imbued with a spirit. But it's more like an Internet of Things commentary. Anyway,
that's sick as shit, dude. Also,
reaction.
To be fair, when Jimmy first told me about your character outside of the podcast, my first question was like Fullmetal Alchemist, and he was like, "No, not at all, no."
Yeah,
that cool. arm is a product of House Cannith.
Yeah,
I mean, we established that in the first episode, so
it is like the Internet of Things.
There is still room to do kind of like a tech dystopia panopticon type of.
Yeah, that was the inspiration for Alfonso and the book that I wrote like fucking 20 pages of and quit. So
still pretty cool. You could still go back to it. I'm just saying.
I could.
Pages aren't going anywhere.
They're not.
Yeah, you just have to read your own work a couple of years later, which
and
is
hate
the most
it.
painful thing.
Okay, yeah, those pages are going somewhere.
They're going to fucking garbage.
Just start over.
Yeah,
I've started over so many fucking times.
Istvan.
Okay, so yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this because I think Istvan is definitely the most difficult role I've given myself, so to speak. I feel like Andromedy and Wink are very much ideologues. And my next character, also very much an ideologue. But Istvan, when we first meet them, is like completely lost. Like they are hopeless and they've given up. They have nothing that they really feel like fighting for. They have like they really go out to Zendrik with the intention to die in the cursed jungle, because they think that might help them, like get back to whatever connection they had with Onatar before they like realized they were helping war profiteers and just kind of were like, wow, I've really wasted my life and been an instrument for evil in the world, and I just can't live with myself. So playing this character who didn't have this strong belief to fall back on put me, Scala the player, in a very, like, I think uncomfortable, but like place with a lot of potential energy.
Yeah, and I think that ended up working, because I don't know if we established it from the offset, but we definitely arrived at the fact that this is not a world that operates on good and evil. This is a world that is purely gray area, and everyone needs to find their niche of what they will do and what they won't do, because everything has to be kind of a give and take of morals and sacrifice, and knowing kind of what you believe in, but what are you prepared to do to just continue living every day in this world.
Yeah.
Came out a lot more real than I meant it to just now.
I think as Istvan wasn't willing to keep living the way they were living, and that's how they end up here. And I think through Warden and Alfonso, they find again the things that they want to fight for, and needing to arrive at that rather than starting from a sort of a place of moral certainty was sort of closer to home, I think, for me. I think when I started playing Istvan, I was extremely depressed and feeling a lot of the same things, and I was wanting to find a productive way to channel that. And I think the personal journey that Istvan goes on, that's not like my own. This is a short form story, and in terms of the storytelling of this, I do want to be part of telling a good story. I want to be responsive. I don't want to keep Istvan in this same place because it's not a healthy place to be, and I want them to succeed as a character, but I want that to be earned. And I think, and I'm very glad, it's very encouraging to me as a person that over the course of this season, Istvan was able to get there. I'm still working on it, but it was a cathartic experience to move through that journey as Istvan.
That's great.
Yeah. Istvan's journey, especially when you get to the close of the campaign, I think what I love about it is it feels so incredibly well contained, but doesn't feel like it needs to be finished yet either, which I loved.
No, and I want to see this. I really do want to see this new Istvan who is sort of recommitted to their purpose and to their connection with Anatar. Because I think that is a character that I like to play. Not that I didn't like playing it, but I think that's similar to the other characters that I play that are like firm in their beliefs and willing to do extraordinary things to achieve them. So I'm excited to play this Istvan who's found their inner flame again.
As somebody who doesn't connect very well to like religious aspects of stories, and so like one of the things I struggle with D&D in particular is like the lore of like gods and stuff. Like it's really cool when they're like forces in the story and they're just like this, like concept of power. But when there's like a religious aspect, that like faith-based character, I don't always connect very well with. But the cool thing about Istvan is that is the doubt. Like the doubt makes sense. And so that journey that Istvan goes on, even if I can't connect with the faith, I can see the transformation kind of like regathering themselves and whatever. And then like that concept of like reclaiming, not reclaiming, I don't know, like when you kill the dragon and like you kind of realize that you're not like things weren't as bad as they had been or something, like not just in like you're making these connections to Anatar, but at the same time in the story you're doing things as like Istvan's doing things to redeem themselves to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Anatar for a second? So I ended up kind of presenting a version of what the sovereigns mean. Was that in line with where you set out in the campaign, or did you picture a more personified Anatar?
So
Maybe not quite like Theros, but something more deity.
no. From what the Eberron I've played in, they strike me more as like saints. Like they are, they're not greater deities. They're not like interventionist. They don't come down but they are like totemic. They are icons of certain ideas, and you have the patron sovereign of this, that, and the other thing. As a monk character, I feel like there has to be some element of spirituality in that, right? The martial discipline springs out of a culture and a tradition. And for dwarves, I figured Anatar would be a good fit, since Anatar is the patron sovereign of things that are traditionally associated with dwarves: smithing, the forge, craftsmanship, artisanry, rather.
Definitely. Yeah, and you touch on it a little bit in the campaign. We didn't fully explore it here, but I did write out a bit of just kind of ready to explore this world where, the hammer is a tool of creation, but it's also a weapon. And Istvan kind of casts themselves in the same mold there, where you're a tool of creation, but you're also a weapon. And you need to find that balance, right? Like you even say almost at the very beginning, when you've been trained for violence, that seems like a viable solution. Kind of a play on the, when all you have is a hammer. I think you did play on it in that episode, yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, I think the duality of the tool / the weapon tool dichotomy is something that I'm interested in, and something that weighs on the character when we first meet them. As I already talked a lot about that, but yeah, exactly. It's that same thing. It's like I could have been making the world a better place, but I was a weapon for war profiteers.
Luciano is the last character left in the retinue.
We'll talk about Hematite when we get to the cat side.
Exactly.
But, yeah. So Luciano, it was important to me that at the very beginning of the campaign here, Alfonso is the only one who really believes that Luciano's in there. Kind of like is there actually a soul here in this arm? You go from, you just have this faith. Shaylin told you the soul's in there. There he is. And then you feel his presence, but it takes a while for him to really come out and manifest. Mm-hmm. And so I put these different milestones where I gave him a few more capabilities as we went on.
Is that something you had planned from the beginning, out of curiosity?
Not every step of it, but yes. This kind of general, this gradual reveal of Luciano.
Mm.
So he starts as he's just trembling your arm, right?
The light glows, I think, but that's it.
Yeah. And it's kind of, the lines are blurred between this arm does have technological capabilities, but also the brothers in there, how much of which,
Yeah.
Right. And then he speaks to you in a dream, I think, is the first direct contact you have with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then in the Druid Grove, right?
Yeah.
Because of this technological connection that he is able to control this arm. His soul is in here. He has been trapped, so to speak, by a practitioner of this ancient elven magic, Shaylin. Just happenstance that it lined up that way. And so he can sort of physically control the same stuff that the Green Warden's made of. And this same process, the way that the Green Warden came to be in a grove similar to this one, just by sitting this druid who sat here for centuries until he was more nature than person.
Mm-hmm.
And so Luciano could kind of sort of do the same thing. You spoke to him in a dream at the Cat's Eye, and then because of the way the Cat's Eye kind of unlocked that for you, then he was just there in this waking dream world. Because you believe so hard, I think, was my justification to myself, that he's here with you. You can feel him, you can hear him. He's here with you, even if he's just a glowing light in your arm. Yeah. And then, of course, because he's supposed to be smarter than Alfonso, he eventually figures out by the last episode that, let's use some artifice. They can actually hear me now.
So he goes from arm, gem, to tree, to ghost, to radio. Weirdest Pokemon evolution ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no through line there. He's just hopping around all over the fucking place.
That's right. Yeah, he's here, but he's more powerful in each iteration. He's more able to communicate.
And yeah, as I say, and his line of communication to people other than like the nature of like him being corporeal or real, actually not even corporeal, but real to others is strengthened in every iteration. Yes. Eventually they can see him and then they can hear him.
And himself.
Yeah.
He's the first time you contact him, he's very disoriented.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know what's going on at all.
Yeah.
He explains to you. Yes, he explains to you later that was kind of the first time he became aware, really, that he can contact you, he can get in touch with you. There's more to learn there about how that works, and there's going to be more to unpack about like their actual relationship, because we don't really know, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, what is their act like? Are they pals? Do they get at each other's throats? Like, I'm excited for that. Like, we're gonna be able to pick that apart a little bit more, which I'm hyped about. There was a couple of moments. I think we got close to exploring it, but then never really actually jumped in on it. But like, I think Luciano misses the way Alfonso used to talk to him, because. You know, there's a moment where you start to blame Luciano for like the dragon attacking, and Luciano's like, "Oh, okay, great. We're having a spat like brothers do. It's not like, I'm so happy to see you, and I love you, brother." And it's just like, they're actually having a real life conversation.
Yeah.
So if I could just put one little insert in here, the parallels in the DMs at this table playing off a PC as their sibling across each campaign, because there's one for all of them, is really fascinating to me.
Is there one in Icewind Dale?
I mean, we don't. Yeah, no,
we don't get a lot of backstory in Icewind Dale.
Yeah,
Jib has a brother.
Exactly, but so specifically, I'm thinking of Alwyn. And I'm specifically thinking of Gron.
Yeah.
And just how these sort of family arcs play out have been really, really interesting to me, because I think that's one of like my favorite parts of DMing. Is like taking like this side character and really using it as a way to fulfill like what the player is trying to get out of this like very important like backstory element, is really great.
And that's one of the ways we echo each other. I especially felt that in the Bogner and Istvan relationship is very similar to the Alwyn and
Edric.
Edric, yeah.
It was originally Edwin, I think.
It was. Edric.
But real quick,
relationship.
Andy, are you telling me that like Kessa is not a sister figure to Everett? Is that what if anything, Ezek and Wink maybe eventually could be something of, but no, not even.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Definitely, I think the question is the same in both of those. It's situations between Alwyn and Edric and Istvan and Bogner. It's do you care enough about this person to maybe let your ideology sort of slide and try to find where you can compromise. And I'd that's like I'm always curious about characters in that way. It's like, where do you draw the line? Like, and I think it's really cool for both of them that it's like family. I draw the line at family, at least.
And then in a very practical sense, mimicking each other's character voices is a fun side effect of doing siblings, or family in general.
Yeah.
Very fun stuff. That Scottish accent gave me so much anxiety.
I thought you fucking did awesome with it, but
well, thank you.
Yeah.
I had to prepare for it. And it's what it is. I feel like I came up with a nice, consistent voice. It is not really a brogue. It's not really a nice sounding Scottish accent. But
I do think it's really consistent.
It gets the job done for the role play.
And it's also consistent. And I think consistency is really fucking hard, especially when you're playing against another player who has a similar voice. It is like, it is so easy.
This is a great segue. I want to get into the expedition here.
Let's talk about this.
Remember Gallant's voice changed 3 times? I actually had to dub in the old voice.
I didn't know that.
Remember that? I did him with like the worst Australian accent ever in the first
Gallant
episode.
started as a Kiwi.
A Kiwi, that's right, yeah. Because I just had this picture in my mind of this, like, he's worldly, he's an adventuring guy, maybe he's inspired by Errol Flynn. He's got this, like... he's also a little bit like a Taika Waititi type of thing. Like, he's just like, he's goofy, but he's like a more broadly comedic Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I just realized I couldn't do that voice, and it was undercutting the actual comedy of the character. So I reined it in. I just said, I'll just do it as kind of an elevated me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Interesting. So a question about the expedition, just to help kick us off. You gave, I don't remember if in your original notes, but in your original notes, you said we're going to be in the jungle of Zendrik. Was there always a plan for us to be with an expedition, or did that come as a result of like Warden's character?
That always seemed to be the reason that made the most sense for you to be in the jungle. That's how you get in any Eberron game. That's how you get to Zendrik. You know, you sign up with an expedition in Sharn, and you end up there.
Gotcha.
And then there's ruins, there's dungeons, there's all that kind of stuff.
All that shit.
You're treasure hunting or looking for historical facts or something. But it's usually an expedition because it's a very inhospitable place, and you kind of need like 10 people to really make it make sense for these people to be surviving out here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the reaction to you separating from the expedition is like, well, you're fucking dead now. That's it.
It was so easy for me to forget, just because, like, and again, it's a campaign to me whose center point is the player characters. So it was so easy for me to forget, like, we are their hired muscle. We have abandoned them. They're probably scared shitless.
Istvan was the hired muscle.
Fair. Yeah,
Alfonso's more of like an engineer.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I started with these three main guys, right? You got the wizened professor, who's really not that wise. He's more goofy. And you've got the adventure archaeologist, who is writing a book and just kind of is in it for the reputation. And you've got the poacher from Tarzan, basically, Rizian. He's he's in it for the money, or so you think. Yeah, and then they have a couple of companions there to do some of the legwork for them. Each of them. So
Clackie.
There's actually a pretty important historical figure that, Jesus, I can't even remember his fucking name now. Not Rizian, the other one.
Gallant?
That Gallant actually reminds me a lot of, and it's the guy who discovers. I mean, it was a white guy in Egypt, so, you can't really say, but, Tutankhamun's tomb.
Oh, okay.
He's supposed to be like this really like bumbling. He just happens to be like very socialite and good with getting patrons and things, but like sort of stumbles into this incredible discovery.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
And I'm so sure that like gets a lot of people killed.
Yeah. I'm sure that the trope that Gallant is based on is maybe at some point based on that guy that I'm not personally aware of, but like the cultural idea of this guy is known. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Gallant, he had a little bit more backstory that you didn't ask him about. I don't blame you for not being interested in Gallant, but he's really like a travel writer who casts himself as an adventurer.
I can already picture
wants to
his
go on
stupid
expeditions.
fucking book covers too.
Yeah.
It's like him his hand draped over one knee, kind of on ruins, like that.
Yeah. So
How
this
I
story
get
is
by.
One of those hats.
Yeah,
exactly. So this book is going to come out, and he's the hero of the story.
of course. Ugh. I hate Gallant. I hate Gallant. Can you remind? There were a couple of what were the names of the people that chased us down the bridge? I feel like they were funny names, and now I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Yuli and Orlot. They were dwarves. They were
okay. Yuli and Orlot.
Yeah, again, I had backstories for them. Didn't ask. They were draft dodgers from Breland. They just went out into the jungle, pulled some strings at the house to get a job that didn't involve them going to war. That's all they had going on, really.
Okay.
Wow.
Fair.
And then Lanlin and Zinni, they're just grad students.
Yeah.
Is Zenith a name we're supposed to recognize?
That's supposed to be Zinni.
Yeah, I know, but is that like a significant person in Eberron canon?
It isn't.
Okay.
It's just a great name.
Yeah, no, it is.
It is a good name. It's a really good name. Speaking of good names, tell us everything about Clackie.
Okay, Clackie. So that is part of Eberron canon. It's basically jungle is completely not navigable without mantis folk. You need a Thri-kreen in your party to be able to go anywhere on this continent. Which became very clear. You wandered around in the jungle for 5 episodes, and then Clackie went, all right, come on back, and in 20 minutes you were back where you started. Like, you can't go anywhere or do anything. So Clackie was a necessary part from the beginning, but I think the actual idea of who Clackie is evolved, and again, you don't, Clackie doesn't have a personality. I mean, Clackie does. Clackie's an intelligent creature with a personality, but doesn't have facial features, doesn't speak your language, can't speak your language, or anything close to it. So I mentioned at one point that I thought Alfonso was going to have tongues, but it turns out artificers don't get 3rd level spells until 9th level. So I'll just tell you. So the Thri-kreen language is it's almost like a computer data transfer. It's like a high frequency sequence of clicks where it's almost like you just understand information from taking this in. Things about how many creatures are in the surrounding area and things that Clackie would know and be able to communicate non-verbally with other Thri-kreen, which they can communicate psionically.
Interesting.
Non-verbally.
That's cool.
And so the whistle that Clackie gave you is just very, very simple, encoded, just it calls Clackie specifically.
Wow.
Hence
So
the Clackie whistle.
It's fucking Bluetooth, basically. You pair Clackie to the whistle.
That's right, yeah. So Clackie can recognize this frequency of whether it's psionic or just supersonic, this sound. And I had this other idea with other Thri-kreens that could relay messages because they hear things, and it's all just high frequency communication. It's internet type stuff. It didn't end up being relevant for you guys to know that much more about it. Clackie also could have, if you had actually spoken, could have communicated things specific route information. You possibly could have traveled without Clackie if you had been able to actually get information out of pronoun indeterminate, Clackie, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And what degree can mantis folk communicate with other species? Because, our friend does ride a fucking ape into combat. Something tells me they had to talk that one out first.
Yeah, so, I mean, we talked about that one back in the table talk for episode 7. But, yeah, I mean, there's kind of a nonverbal component there too. But if you remember, the ape's body language was closer to your body language than Clackie's. Mm-hmm. The ape has more in common with you.
Okay.
And also, we didn't meet any others, but there's a whole population of Thri-kreen in Stormreach because they lived there for the entire time, intervening between the fall of the giant empire and the rise of the city of Stormreach. It was just inhabited by mantis folk who were somewhat displaced.
And now they run a real strong racket.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that, there's nobody should have any business going into that jungle. So it's not so much a racket as it is like opportunistically taking the money of fools.
Yeah.
A racket.
Sure.
Yeah. Andy makes a solid point there.
All right.
It is a product of necessity, too.
Speaking of rackets, can we please talk about the radio show?
Oh, man.
Let's talk about the radio show.
Yeah.
Formative Dungeons and Dragons right here.
Yeah. Genre bending.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as I said, I wanted to do something really fun with this campaign. And I think that I took that to the extreme with this. I wanted to lower the stakes so that we could do some more ridiculous shit. These are fictional characters on the radio, and they're fun to listen to, but they're not that sympathetic. If they get fucking killed in whatever they're trying to do here, it's actually going to be funnier. So it's,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if these are even one-dimensional characters. These are like half-dimensional characters.
Yeah.
They really are.
The saddest part about any of them getting killed is we lose the one-liner. That's the worst part of any of it.
right. I don't even think I asked you for backstories. I think it was just...
Yeah. They're a one-liner and a weapon, and that's about it.
Yeah. I let
So
Andy
many
play as a
gems,
large
though.
creature.
So many gems.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck.
Something that I think this is more about my DM style than the world, but charges stick, which is something you guys should know about how I play the game. If you break the law, there's going to be consequences.
It's not GTA. You don't just wait till the stars go down. You're stuck with that shit. Yeah.
The Fed's knocking on Brug's door.
And
so
Heward's,
good.
apparently.
So this thing with Scala, with Von Nisch, right? Von Snitch. Is Von Snitch supposed to be the real name?
Yeah, Von Snitch is the real name.
Okay.
Von Nisch is the anagram name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fuck.
I actually wanted to play you guys off each other, and Scala came up with the same idea as me and contacted me first.
Damn.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Damn.
I was gonna say, one of them should be kind of a rat, and I was gonna contact
Straight
Scala,
up out of The Departed.
and then exactly, I watched The Departed, and I was like, "This is what we're doing. We're gonna double cross, we're double triple cross, we're doing this."
Fucking Kawatapi is Mark Wahlberg's character all day.
Yeah, and I guess Scala was on the same frequency, and just
Scala was Matt Damon.
Got there at the same time.
Yeah, no, it was crazy that happened.
Brug was Jack Nicholson.
I'll take it. The boss was Jack Nicholson.
No, because Brug can't be Leonardo DiCaprio. We just know that.
I mean, I knew I wanted
Maybe
to play...
Brug is fat, Leo.
I knew I wanted to play a changeling rogue, and I feel like if you're not playing both sides as a changeling, you're really missing an opportunity.
Doing
there.
a disservice to your race.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Although that, now that I say that makes me want to play a changeling who, always goes around in their, normal face and is, very resistant to, changing
fucking course.
their appearance. Because, they don't want to be stereotyped, right? They don't want to be, they don't want people to think that they're, that they're duplicitous. They want to... Whether this is a viable thing or not, but because of the social pressure, they want to make sure that they're seen as honest. That's a interesting character concept for another time, though.
Yeah,
maybe that's how Von Nisch's actor is, or Von Snitch's actor is.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's been written about in Eberron, fan lore and stuff. This idea that changelings are a people without a home because nobody trusts them. Even though they're native to this place, they belong here just as much as humans do. No one really accepts them. They kind of have to live amongst themselves or secretly amongst other races.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that also, I believe, goes back to the Traveler. who gave them their ability to shape change.
Where'd you read that? I didn't know that, but I like it.
I read that on an Eberron. Like, I was probably on the wiki, or like clicking a link off the wiki to some other source book. But they were like, apparently the first changelings were all the children of this one person, and like it was prophesied that their children would like do something bad, and so like people wanted to kill them, and so the Traveler was like, I will make it so no one knows who these children are, but they will forever give up, the way they look. And that was like the deal that I believe it was Jess was the mother struck with the Traveler, and that was like what created the first changelings. Or that's the mythology that I remember reading, at least.
There's a lot of Eberron lore locked up in like novels that, not a lot is known to just casual players of the game. And I'm not about to read a bunch of the novels. They're not technically canon, but they do, they are written by the guy who wrote the canon. So some of them. So, there's Keith Baker, but there's also James Wyatt is his name. He's involved in MTG as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just kind of generally a wizards guy. Okay. So, radio. We're still, anything else to say about the radio?
I mean, just another day at the office. Not even a problem, really.
I think before we move on, we should just get in a word from our sponsor, Bag of Holding.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to move, Bag of Holding is there for you.
Yeah.
Use promo code Unnamed Radio Play.
Unnamed Radio Play.
It got a name at the end.
I was going to say, what did you call it?
The Bag of Holding Radio Hour.
Yeah. So good.
Sponsored by
and, like,
Bag of
true
Holding.
True to form. Like...
Yeah, exactly. It's that type of...
The 20s, that's exactly what it was. And now
that's
the
right.
Sears Roebuck Radio Hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just sponsored. Yeah, exactly. And just slandering the competition constantly.
Oh, yeah, that was... Rest in peace, Heward's Handy Haversacks, because left him in the dust.
I had more planned for the story, but I had to weigh it against, do we want to keep doing this the entire season?
Yes.
And then I decided to hang it up, and maybe we'll come back to it another time. Because they're, you didn't get away that cleanly. Yeah. You did evade the capture of the police that are right there in your vicinity, but charges stick.
I suspect if the Bag of Holding sales go up, they will absolutely greenlight a second season.
And you're going to get a Breaking Bad season finale cut in, where it's like months later.
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. All right. The Cat's Eye.
Yes.
So, fuck around in the jungle for a while. Have some nice character building stuff. You kill a T-Rex, and then...
2.
Right at the exact time and place that you need it to. The Cat's Eye is there for you. And then it sticks around for 2 episodes longer than I meant it to.
I called
like every cat.
I called it, yeah. Cat's like, I will stay. Well, that wasn't the plan. I'm staying. Okay.
Here to stay.
Yeah.
At least until this adventure is over.
It's one of my favorite arcs we've ever done, period.
Yeah. The Cat's Eye even continued evolving even after we arrived there, I think. I always knew that it was this weird remote place that the Sphinx lives there for now. It's inhabited by cats, and that was all I had, which is why I thought it would only take 1 episode. I thought it was going to be an extremely short dungeon with the Sphinx at the top. And then we ended up taking it in a different direction.
Yeah.
And
we meet Hematite.
Alexa was going to be there, and that would have been that.
I thought I remember that the idea pitched to me for I had Hematite as a character. I thought that Hematite you guys were gonna meet at the Cat's Eye, and then I was going to take you to the Sphinx. So I didn't know, and the Sphinx was gonna be out in the jungle. Like, we were just gonna leave, and I was gonna take you to whatever city you were going to, and we might maybe find a Sphinx, maybe not. That was what I remember from talking to Jimmy before we started.
There were a lot of iterations. There was one where the Sphinx was... There was a ruin nearby where the Sphinx was inhabiting. There was one where I think Flamewind was like in the basement, like it was a whole like crypt underneath the cat's eye. But then I was like, I like ascending endlessly in this 3-story building. We go up 7 floors. I think it did a really big service to. We talked about it in the table talk for the season finale, but the magical realism. Like I just feel like a crypt it doesn't have that same vibe, but the way in which we ascended, and obviously the whole Escher painting vibe, like that I think really brought it together in a fun way.
I love sci-fi a lot, and so I was a huge fan of all the time manipulation that was going on, and the not mirroring, but like everything made a weird sort of chaotic sense with the time stuff. As you're playing, you don't really know what's going on, but it does make sense afterwards somehow. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that was pretty cool in a cat way.
Yeah. Speaking of cat stuff, we should talk about Hematite, but I want to know everything in Hematite's list.
All right, it's about time.
Yeah.
Yes. So
it is about time.
So when I made Hematite, we decided on some stuff that Hematite was going to have, because he was like a collector of stuff, and Hematite like has a very extensive backstory. I feel like, but one of his main things is that he doesn't understand time and he doesn't understand money, but he does know that certain things are very important to humans and non-cat creatures, and so he likes to take those things so that people will, goods and services for him. And so the stuff that he collected was a shark tooth.
My god! All of these are important to people, right? That's the theory that Hematite has.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So the shark tooth.
I said you can just come up with a bunch of shit as long as if you want any of this to have like magical item properties, run it by me, but otherwise just put whatever you want on this list, was basically the idea.
Yeah, but all of them have a little backstory. The only thing that we talked about that might have magical properties was the mummified mouse. And we didn't really come up with any actual magical properties besides the fact that it's in talking about the character, was like, wouldn't it be cool if Hematite had a little mouse that he had caught, like a real mouse that he caught and then kept forever and just never killed it, never got rid of it. It just stayed a mouse, and then the mouse like haunted its body, and
Jesus Christ,
he could have like a little ghost friend, but like that never actually happened. He just has the mummified mouse.
I think I shied away from that because it would have complicated the greater themes of the campaign. The ghost in the machine of it all,
oh, totally.
That mouse means a lot for Luciano. That has a lot of...
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Jeppy would not have let it go if... Yeah.
No, I think it would have been very funny if, like, you'd been talking about Luciano, and then Hematite goes like, oh yeah, I've got a friend like that. And then, like, what? No, wow.
The rest of the quest would have been me trying to figure out what the fuck is up with the mouse.
Right, but no, the reality is that he just has a little mummified mouse that he talks to.
Okay.
Whatever. So he has a shark tooth, which he got from a sailor. He has actually been on a boat. He has sailed across an ocean. That's true.
Ocean or lake or canal or creek?
I'm pretty sure it's an ocean. He has been to a different continent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hematite had Brellish coins. So
yeah. Well, yeah.
A lot of people in Stormreach have Brellish coins. But
that's fair.
Yeah. He started out with 5 smooth stones, and 3 of them were supposed to be a nod to Icewind Dale, I think. Right, Jimmy?
So let's back up for a second, because you said I have these 5 red stones. There's a ruby, there's a garnet, there's what else is red?
I don't know. No, I said, and then 3 weird red stones.
3 weird red rocks. And I didn't give you any direction on that. You told me you have 3 weird red rocks. And I was like, keep those. that
Yeah.
might have some implication
shit.
later.
Good
if we look,
Easter egg.
If we look
Good
closer
Yeah.
at them
Wow.
at any point.
Whiff.
Yeah,
over my
right
head.
over my head.
Yeah,
Amazing.
nobody looked that closely at them, but yeah.
Wow.
No. And I tried even in the moment to be like, these are really weird red rocks. I don't know. They're weird, but
Shit.
nobody caught on to it.
You
so I
did.
just
There was
moved
at least
on.
one point. I think it may have been when you were playing cards outside the Time Dragon Chamber.
Well, there it is.
You were
Yeah,
like,
we
I
were a
have
little
ruby,
fucking
I have
distracted.
garnet, and I've got these other
You-
weird red rocks.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm like, has Warden turned into fucking just a branch? What, like, that's where my mind was.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. I love that.
He's got...
I'm going to go back and
trying to
listen
read-
immediately now.
Jeffrey, we're still recording.
I'm leaving.
I
You
don't
do
know
it
what
right.
Wraith the Site really actually does, so there's no other implications or
That's fine.
information.
And Easter eggs are Easter eggs. That's great. I love that.
But there's also the
I
Eberron
have-
connection with Fel Barash. The
Yeah.
last thing. Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, some different types of coins that he's gotten on his journeys. The pack of cards he actually got from his first, master. But he, spent a lot of time with other humans, learning how to play cards. And that was how he, learned that people like you if you know how to play games. And if you work hard for a long day, then at the end of the day, you get to play cards and you have fun with your friends. And he had this one kind of traveling guard type friend that taught him the ropes, and they were in a merchant caravan. And then later on he meets another guy that teaches him how to steal. He got the garnet and the ruby. He had a bunch of, you know what? You guys tell me which stories you remember that stick out to you, and I'll tell you if they're true or false. How about that?
Tell me how Hematite got the blue acorn.
That's literally all I want. That's it. Everything.
I don't know.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, so there was this
I guess that
concept.
checks. Huh?
There was this idea that Hematite partied with dragons for a year.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, that's right. So he went through I forget how he did it, but he went up a mountain. He was trying to help. Somebody hired him to protect this group of guys as they hiked up a mountain, and then there's dragons at the top, and they kill all the guys, and he just hangs out with the dragons all for a year and parties.
They were likely trying to steal from the dragon's horde or whatever, and then got themselves into trouble, but then the dragons kind of took Hematite in, is the way the story goes.
Exactly.
And then we recorded this. We just turned on the recorder one night. We were actually just talking about this shit. Hematite rode on the back of a dragon is the way the story goes.
There was some sort of the dragons were attacked, or there was some sort of war, like a cataclysmic event where there was meteors or something. Something was raining from the sky. This is sounding insane.
Let's leave it here because I think
Okay.
that's enough to go on. That's enough for fan theories.
Okay.
And we'll just all keep in mind that Hematite exists out of place and time.
That's right.
Good thing I'm wearing headphones, otherwise there'd be smoke coming out of my ears, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes Hematite's actually telling the truth, and you think that it's insane, but it's true.
Hematite fucking parties. That's the one-liner.
Yeah.
Fucking parties. So yeah,
Hey,
we were
that's
really
about
glad
it
to
for
have you
Hematite, though.
as
It was so much fun.
sort of an
Oh, it was
honorary
amazing.
party member for
Yeah.
almost half the season.
Oh, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, not at all what I expected, but wouldn't have changed anything at all. It was so good.
It was a blast.
And then we gave you a nice little send off and left the door open for you to return at some point.
I was gonna say, because it sounds like the cat's eye can just. It doesn't need to be Zendrick. Is that a fair theory, Jimmy? Is that something you're comfortable sharing? It could be anywhere. The cat's eye.
I guess, yeah.
That feels on brand for everything else related to it. Maybe, probably, could be.
Maybe it's not that. It's more about what do I want to commit to on mic?
Yeah.
You know, it's not about what I know or what I want to tell you or whatever. It's like, if I say something that gets recorded and published, it's canon.
The good thing is, like, with the cat's eye, you can be waffly. You can be kind of waffly about it. Like, maybe. And that feels perfectly like a reasonable answer for the cat's eye.
That's right.
I was just going to say two things and cut whatever. I'm very open to coming back because this was such a great, like, thank you for having me on. It was awesome to play with each of you, like, all of you. The second thing is, though, my devices are all failing power-wise, so...
Okay.
I don't know how much longer you're going to go on, but is it okay if I leave?
It is
10
all
minutes. It's whatever, yeah.
Alexa, it's been a pleasure
Yes, thank you so much.
having you
been a
in
pleasure.
season and hanging out with you.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been very, very fun.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you guys soon, whether in D&D or out of it.
Sure.
You'll probably see us soon
Yeah.
out of D&D for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Right.
And so, as far as I see, there's only one more thing to talk about on the show notes, and that is going off the rails. So,
Yeah.
Jimmy, why don't you tell us about the rails that you built that we all kind of completely disregarded?
Yeah, I left that door open for you guys to disregard the rails. It was, the basic shape of the campaign is start in the middle of the jungle, and you have to go through Stormreach to leave Zendrick. And you have to leave Zendrick if you're going to basically live into the next year. So, that's kind of all I set some stories out. I kind of put some rails in front of you for the first few episodes here. The storm and the rope bridge and the giants and that sort of stuff. And then, as we mentioned on the table talk at the time, episode 6 was when we came back from the hiatus of this season. I approached it with a completely different play style. I realized that the directionless thing was fun for a while, but now let's actually get something in motion. So episode 6, the entire thing was me asking you, where does your character want to go from here? What do you want to get out of this? And got a lot of very good answers, and then put a lot of stuff in the world for you guys to play with not a lot of, well, we have to do this and we have to do that and this has to happen before this and that. Like, it was more just like, all right, here's this person with this motivation and this thing is here and this works like this, and let's see what we do with it. And I wanted to keep reminding you throughout, like, don't look for the right answer here. Do what you want to do what you think is right. And so from a character perspective, how did that feel to you?
I always do what I want to do. So I felt right the fuck at home. But in all seriousness, I don't know. It is weird. Like, I didn't... it's hard to say. Like, I did feel a sense of... I know you're asking about the back half of the campaign, but I kind of want to talk a little bit about the front half, which is I felt... Even though we were literally fucking being guided by a star, I felt very directionless. I felt truly lost in the jungle. And I think it's because my character is so emotionally wrapped up in his personal quest that, like, what we were doing felt far removed. Like, the star and the journey, like, everything I was doing was based on the faith that it was leading me to my quest, but there was no evidence of it. So it felt pretty directionless. The back half of the campaign... Again, Alfonso's going to Alfonso because it's a character played by me. But, like, it felt like I was following a trail of crumbs that were leading me towards what I wanted to achieve.
Well, there certainly were breadcrumbs for the Luciano subplot thing that was happening.
Right.
It's interesting. Istvan kind of stumbled on, I don't want to say redemption, because I don't think Istvan was someone who needed to be redeemed, but they needed to absolve their guilt. And they stumbled upon that absolution by sheer chance. Again, like, if that combat had gone a different way and all Istvan had done was cower in the trees, like, they would have come out of that, I think, a very different character. So it was really luck in a few different ways that made it that Istvan could rekindle their inner flame and have that connection reborn. Not to say that the journey wasn't valuable. I think the encounter with Flamewind was reaffirming to Istvan, at least, because, you know, the idea that they had prophetic importance was like, oh, well, you know, kind of a restatement of the thing they'd been learning on the way. It's like, there is a reason for you to be alive. There is a reason for you to keep striving for this either, you know, act of great valor or work of great beauty, rather than kind of just looking for death as the easy way out, so to speak. So, yeah, it was very lucky for Istvan that they were just in the right place in the right time to throw a hammer.
Well, I mean, that entire encounter was all about being in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So the dice helped us, you know, really tell that story.
Yeah.
Follow through on that.
They almost didn't, because
awesome.
that was 4 hammers, and it came down to the last.
I honestly don't have too much to add on this. I definitely felt like the first half, even though we were following a literal, like, thing in the sky, like, pretty directionless, was very happy for the change of pace, because I think it comes down to something that I've definitely noticed about myself as a player, which is I feel like I play my characters best when they have a very clear goal. And for Warden, coming out of the ground, he had no idea why or what he's supposed to do. But getting to know, like, the rest of the party more, and especially with, you know, the connections that we all have, backstory-wise, and, I mean, the cosmological connections and everything, it just really helped steer that and make it a lot easier for me. But granted, I was also the one who wanted to play the Green Warden in the first place.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. I guess, and that kind of sums up this next piece. There may not be too much to add, but, like, Jimmy, anything you want to say that you haven't said maybe about structuring this campaign? I know, like you said, like the hiatus kind of gave you a perspective on it, but I guess, like, I mean, originally there wasn't planned to be a hiatus. So, like, what was your structural plan going into this?
Yeah, I think I might as well just tell you this. I always expected it to change. I didn't think that it was just going to be boom, 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 boom. This is what happens in each episode, and here's how it goes. But I thought that all the Stormreach stuff, which ended up being compressed into an episode and a half, would be closer to 3 or 4 episodes. Even with maybe another thing that happens afterwards, like Stormreach is somewhere you pass through and end up doing something else at the end. Maybe it's on a boat, maybe it's you go through a teleportation circle. There is even one thing I entertained where the very end, the boss fight type stuff is in Cannith Tower.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, there were a lot of different ways this could have gone. But I like that we ended up with the Cat's Eye being a whole, you know, chapter of the arc here.
Yeah, it was
3 whole episodes.
Tremendously fun, tremendously whimsical, but heady. It was time, in my opinion, so well spent.
Another thing, though, that in the way that I structure this is that I was constantly listening back to the previous episodes in the planning process and, like, meticulously noting things. So it kind of has this cool effect where it seems like I planned things really far in advance, but really what it is building off these little crumbs of something that happened previously. You build it out as you go, and it makes it seem like, oh, that was happening all along, because it was happening all along, but I didn't know where it was going to end up. Mm-hmm. You know, so I liked to, you know, pepper in things on purpose, like, oh, I can do something with that later. Oh, like this is a good thing to mention. This is something I want to definitely make sure gets said here, so that later it's not totally blindsiding them when it's a very important plot point. Yeah, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I also think, hiatus aside, I think this also just episode to episode, I may be wrong, but I think this was the longest span of time we've taken to record. So we had, you probably had an opportunity to listen back to sessions more so than maybe others of us, the rest of us had, which could have been helpful. I feel like, oh my God, the amount it would have gotten in my head. We recorded a lot of Icewind Dale at a breakneck speed, and I'm kind of grateful I wasn't able to listen back. I was able to listen back to a couple episodes, but not all of them, and I'm glad for that.
I would never have wanted to listen back to myself.
Yeah. Oof.
It was hard enough editing myself, but yeah, I don't know how you do it, Jimmy.
Yeah,
I like to hear it.
I can see why, and I think it's great, and I do think I can see the benefit it brought to your session planning, because I think the sessions came out amazing. But speaking only for my own, just for me, I don't know if I could weather that storm emotionally. Listening back while planning the rest of the campaign would just be harrowing.
This is a conversation I would like to have in more detail, just generally about the way we play.
Yeah.
Being able to go back and listen to previous sessions and being able to meticulously manage the lore of things that happened, specific wordings and callbacks to stuff that would have just been forgotten in-person settings. They come back again and again because we have this primary source document to go back to. I'd like to talk about that for a very long time, but we are out of time for this particular episode.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that we are going to be doing a couple of episodes over the next few weeks where we're going to do kind of a year in review, a retrospective of our first year of Pods of the Multiverse. So we're going to hold off for a couple of weeks before season 5 comes back around with our return to Theros.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Before we do that, we're going to do a few weeks of anniversary content and just general let's talk, let's debrief, let's see where are we at, how have we changed, what are we doing now,
and what's it like starting a podcast, which is one of the things that we wanted to talk about from the beginning. It's
interesting that this subject has come up on our Discord, the idea of the creative process, and we're at a point where we want to make sure we have enough lead on being able to release the kind of episodes that we're happy with. We want to just use this to give ourselves some time to get ahead on production. So we're being upfront about, we also have lots of stuff we want to talk about, but there is a dual purpose to this.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah, and rest assured, season 5 is already in production.
Oh, yes.
But we want to take a little break now so that we aren't forced to take a break at some point when we hit a wall. So
and usually we share a trailer for the next season. We will be doing that as part of the anniversary kind of special content that we're doing. So I can't wait for that fucking trailer either. Oh my God. Pre-hype. Theros is so much fun to come back to, but we'll talk about that more with the trailer. I guess last time saying this for a while for Eberron, favorite moments of the campaign, I guess. Yeah, I know, Jimmy, you're gonna be in a fucking, you're not gonna be able to answer this one. We'll come back to you in 3 hours. Let's go in the order our characters are introduced. Andy.
All right, I'll shoot from the hip on this one. I'm gonna say the Druid Grove, hands down.
Oh wow,
good choice.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
this is a good choice. It's a very good choice.
Yeah, just
excellent character.
So good.
Turning point for the campaign. It's phenomenal.
Yep.
Mine is, you all heard me say this 30 minutes ago when we recorded Table Talk for episode 12. Mine is the roleplay moment between Alfonso and Isfan in the finale where Bogner,
favorite for the season.
Legitimately, maybe my favorite thing we've recorded. I literally teared up after we recorded it. That moment got me. But yeah, when Bogner walks away and then Alfonso says, sometimes the dreams are good enough. It's like, fuck.
I'm going to go a little more lighthearted. Pretty much the actual bank heist episode of the bank heist thing, just like not really a moment, but I do know the moment. It's nothing's above board where Hugh and Sandy have a sex are involved.
Yeah, so good.
Amazing.
Cue the music. Oh God.
Damn. There's so many things. You know what? I it was very challenging, but I really liked Warden breaking the Time Dragon Chamber.
Oh God, yeah,
Fucking
Yeah.
yeah. That would definitely be a close second for me.
yeah, because it was like I didn't tell you how to solve it. There wasn't one simple solution, but you came up with a plan that seemed to make perfect sense, and it was like, yeah, and it all checks out. Yes, they will get through unimpeded if they just stick to the plan. And then Warden befriended the dragon, attempted to free it, and blasted through the ceiling and incurred
Just
thousands of
went on
years of time onto himself.
Real journey. Also, shout out to that episode, which had my favorite music that I scored probably for the entire year, because I had just gone and seen Akhenaten and the Met, and so I came back and wrote that in like one 2-hour session
Hell
and just cranked it out.
Shout out to all the music this season.
Yes.
The
string swell that starts the season is fucking extraordinary.
I do quite like the Eberron theme a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
But like
The
it's
stacked chord.
yeah, just like that rising over Jimmy's initial exposition, like this is a much anticipated time, and then those strings coming in gives me goosebumps every time. I've listened to the beginning of the season, like the first minute, probably 10 times, because it's such a great start.
There are a lot of moments like that, whether it's my voice or even just like characters or whatever. Those kind of underscoring moments where something builds up, slow burn type
end
things.
of episode 8 is one of those moments.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh God, yeah. So this is something I would like to dedicate a little bit of time to in our year in review episodes, but I have really come to love scoring underneath RP moments way more than combat. As like fun and catchy as combat scoring is, that's not where it's at for me right now. But anyways,
Well, I mean, a week or two ago, we actually recorded a Table Talk bonus content episode about the whole production process of how we make these things. And that'll be coming out at some point in the next few weeks or months. And we mentioned repeatedly we'd like to do the same thing for music. So just a deep dive on all of the music for all the seasons.
hell yeah.
Tell us about how you developed themes, how you choose instrumentation, and your process even. So we want to hear all
Can't
about
wait
that.
to hear that.
Anyway, look out. A lot of content coming your way in the next weeks.
Yeah, I'm
months.
excited. Definitely excited.
So
Hype is real.
Hype is real. All right. I guess that's... Jimmy, you got to say it.
that's Table Talk.
That's Table
That's
Talk.
Table
That's
Talk.
Table Talk.
And that's Table Talk.